Hi, Lynn.
Hi. Welcome. I have a couple of you coming on today. As you come on, we would love to invite you to have audio off and camera on where possible, so that it makes it easier for Kevin and I to interface with you. So welcome, welcome. Today, we're talking about the author advantage with my favorite publisher in all the world, Kevin Mullani, recommended to everybody and anybody that's interested in writing. So we're in for a really good treat today. And we're going to give people a chance to come on. Um, if you have questions, uh, we'll ask you to hold those, put them in the chat if you need to. While Kevin is talking, Shannon can wave her hand. She runs the operations here at SoulSalt. We'll be watching the chat so that you have your comments and your questions are 100% accepted and fielded over to the expert today. And while you're coming on, this webinar represents one that of the many things that we do at SoulSalt. This is one of our free webinar series called Courageous Growth. The topics are varied. Typically, we pick these topics from the things that people are asking me about in my life, what I post on Instagram, and then sometimes reoccurring themes that keep coming up in coaching sessions with my clients. So one of the number one questions I've been asked in the last year since Kevin published my book and we were able, with his influence, to get an Amazon best-selling status. I've been asked, how did you do it? What would you recommend? So today we're going to cover three things. Today we're going to talk about why your book can be an asset to you and your business if you own a business. If you're a personal brand, why it can be an asset for your personal brand. We're going to talk about publishing options, and there are so many, more than there have ever been before. And so Kevin can give you some guidance on how to choose the right one and how to get past the big barriers that keep you from writing the book. And there are so many. Even though my book, Soul Salt, lived inside of me for years, this little manual was in me, embodied in my behaviors. The hardest thing I ever did in that year and a half when I was writing it was write it and get it out of me. And so without Kevin, I would not have been able to do that. And I am telling you this, even in the face of knowing that I went through a class to write and a group coaching system to write a proposal for the book. So you really need to know a lot about your book to write a proposal. And it wasn't until I gave the proposal to Kevin that I realized I'd found my partner to help me bring the book forward and to take what I'd written already and really make it translate into a viable book, something people would want and find value in. So Kevin is a published, he's a ghostwriter, which means his work is published. He's written for other people, and some of that has been bestseller material as well. He's a nonfiction book coach, and he's also a publisher. So I use the nonfiction book coaching and the publishing. And then anybody who knows him very well, they also know that he is a if you think about Top Gun, he's one of those guys. He literally is one of those guys. He's been in the cockpit many, 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 many hours, literally flying fighter planes. So here is Kevin Mullani. I'm going to let him take over and jump into his content. So Kevin, let's start with why a book is an asset to you and your business. Is that a good place to start?
Yeah, I got some slides here, so I'm going to share my slides and bring those up, and then we'll just get started right away because I actually have a lot to share today, and I'm going to squeeze about an hour presentation into 45 minutes. So, um, I'm sure you've all seen those presentations where people get to the very end of it and they realize they're running out of time, so they go a lot faster and they blitz through the last few slides. That's going to be me the entire presentation today. So I'm just giving you fair warning ahead of time. The good news is there is going to be a replay. So if I do go fast through a topic and you didn't catch something, don't panic. You can go back and watch the replay and catch it. I'll also try to leave some time at the end for some questions. I do have my beautiful wife taking notes for me to like write down questions and hopefully hand them to me by the end here. So with that said, welcome everybody who's joined in. I'm really actually honored to be today. I want to thank you guys. And if anybody wants to mute their microphone, that might help out a little bit too, in case there's kids in the background or dogs in my situation. Um, Thank you guys for being here. I'm really honored to speak here because it's not often that you get to present your vision to a group of visionaries. And so that's really special to me when I get a chance to do something like this. So a very special thanks also to Lynn and Shannon for making this happen. And so over the next 45 minutes, Lynn already told you what I'm going to cover. So I'll just kind of go through those things really quick. But these are some of the most commonly asked questions, not just for Lynn, but for me too, as a publisher. When people come up to me as a business owner, as an expert, as a brand, whatever, and they want to write a book, these are some of the things that I have to answer a lot. So that's why I'm talking about these things today. But first, I know that there are people online who don't know who I am, and Lynn did a marvelous job of making me sound very shiny and amazing. So I will just introduce myself a little bit more and let you know I did not start out in publishing, just like Lynn said. I actually did start out in the Air Force. That's me sitting in the back seat there. I'm sort of like Goose from Top Gun. So that's what I did for 10 years was fly in the Air Force in fighter jets. It was an amazing opportunity. It was great while I was young and single to travel the world and do some exciting things. But as you start having a family, things change a little bit and my goals shifted. And I'm, as Lynn guides so many people through, I needed to make a career change and getting out of the Air Force was one of them. So that's what I did. While I was getting out of the Air Force, my wife was pregnant with our second child. And just a couple months, or not even a couple months, probably a month after I got out, we actually had our second child, Ethan True. He was born premature, very young, very small. As you can see in the picture there, he was not even as big as my hand. So it was quite the crazy situation, to be sure. Um, Ethan was in perfect health. He was an amazing little boy. He passed all of the tests that they make NICU babies go through to make sure that they're going to develop normally and not have, a really burdensome life. And on day 10, the doctor came in and said pretty much, hey guys, congratulations. All you have to do is fatten him up and take him home. So we were very excited about that. We knew we had about a month ahead of us of that kind of work, but we were excited about it. And then on day 12, the doctor called us really early in the morning and said, hey, Kevin, I think you and Stephanie better get in here. I don't think Ethan's going to make it to the end of the day. So obviously that was kind of a shock after just a couple days prior hearing the other news. So we loaded up and went right in and got there just in time. He was right, and Ethan did not make it to the end of the day. So it was obviously a major, major upset in our lives. Completely turned us upside down, as you can imagine. To to add insult to injury, we found out post this event that it was a medical error that actually ended up killing him. This was during this was during that time where there were several batches of mislabeled heparin coming into the States from China. He got a batch of heparin to clean his tubes that was labeled as young, as very low dose. It was actually a high adult dose, and it caused internal bleeding, and he passed. So I don't tell you this to like bring this whole thing down, but it was like this was the catalyst that kicked off everything that we do in publishing now. So I want to talk a little bit about how books helped me heal because I was not a reader. I only read things that were assigned to me in school that I had to read. I only read things that I had to read in the Air Force to like learn the next thing I needed to learn. So I did not pleasure read. But after this event, I was so lost and so confused and searching for so many answers that I started consuming books like crazy. I read all sorts of spiritual books, all sorts of self-help books, trying to get some answers. And books helped me heal. And it really developed a love for books for me, and especially the self-help and solution-based books. On the other side, my wife, as she was struggling to recover as well from this, she came to me one day and she said, I have actually several children's books that I wrote while I was in college, and I would like to publish them in honor of Ethan as a legacy for him. Well, as you can imagine, at this point, I'm now out of work and we have a ton of medical debt and all sorts of things. So I'm like, we can't afford to hire somebody to publish books. So I'm going to try to figure it out. So I went to the best schools in the world. I went to YouTube and Google, and I learned everything I needed to know in order to try to publish a children's book for my wife. And then eventually we did a small nonfiction book as well. And they actually ended up being quite successful. As people heard this story, they kept coming to us, much like they do Lynn, and they were saying, "How did you do that? How can you help me do that?" And so at that point, we decided, you know what, there's enough people asking, let's turn this into a business. So we launched True Publishing in honor of our son's middle name there in 2012, and we've been going strong ever since with that. Since launching, we've produced multiple award-winning books and best-selling books. We've helped countless authors plan, write, and publish. And it's just an incredible experience to be able to work with such amazing people. Over this decade, however, I realized the ones that I love working with the most were experts, business owners, entrepreneurs, people with their own passion, their own drive. And so they really became my niche. And we decided in 2021 that I wanted to kind of not really shut down True Publishing, but like make that sort of our brand, and launched Innovator Press instead. And now Innovator Press focuses just on nonfiction solution-based books. So if you're somebody who helps somebody else solve a problem, that's the kind of books that we love to publish. Using this decade of experience, plus I really dove into digital marketing, trying to learn how I can best help my clients be successful and high performance with coaches like Brendan Burchard. I took all these things that I had studied for either decades or many years, and then I developed a framework to help people write a book, help them plan and write a nonfiction book. And I called that the expert book formula. And that's actually the formula that we used when we put together Lynn's book, Soul Salt. So you got to see an example of that if you're familiar with the book. This also helps me bring a unique solution to experts, business owners, personal brands, people who want to write a nonfiction book, because nobody else is really integrating some of this marketing knowledge and high performance training into how they write a book. And I think it's actually critical into making the book a success. So that's kind of what led up to where I am. I'll show you just the last couple of books we've launched here, the last three. Intelligent Huddles, we launched to #1 bestseller in 3 different categories. So very successful for Andrea in that. A book called Parenting Emotionally Distressed Kids. Dr. Alden is an amazing coach and psychologist that works in homes with families with adopted kids and kids who have challenges that need extra help. Launched her to #1 bestseller in 2 different categories and #3 in a third. And of course, you're all familiar with Soul Salt. One of my favorite books ever, launched Lynn to #1 bestseller in 3 categories on Amazon as well. So I tell you all this just so you know that I'm not up here passing on information that I just read, last week. This is tried and true, long tested, and a lot of trials, failures, and successes to get to this point. So with that being said, now that you kind of have a background of who I am, what my heart is, and why I'm so passionate about helping people with books, let's dive into the 3 topics that we promised you we'd talk about today. First of all, a book is an asset. I know that most people listening to this webinar probably already know that, but I'd like to go through just like how many different ways a book can help you as both individually and with your business. So we'll start off with how is a book, or why is a book an asset to you? First of all, the obvious one is it can increase your level of credibility and authority. I think everybody kind of knows in the back of their mind, at the very least, that it's very hard to write and publish a book. There is a lot that has to go into it unless you just do a really junky one. But for most people, getting a book published is a really big deal. And other people know that as well. So just the fact that you publish a book automatically adds an extra level of credibility and authority to what you do. It proves that you have expertise in your field and that you care enough that you're putting it into a book as well as the services that you provide. So that's a pretty amazing benefit right there. It can help you get increased acceptance into speaking engagements. If you think about that, it's kind of obvious as well. If you're trying to pick between 2 people and they both have identical credentials, but one person is a published author and the other isn't, you're probably going to go with the published author almost every time. So it definitely helps if you want to get into, or you're already into, the speaking world. One of the things I love about a book is that it can save you time by reducing your effort to nurture leads. And so what I mean by that is a lot of times it takes a ton of touch points in order to get somebody to know, like, and trust you. It takes hundreds of social media posts before somebody really like feels like they know or trust you. It takes dozens of emails personally directly with some or not, like into somebody's email box before they will know, like, and trust you. It can even take, several, three, six, however many personal interactions with somebody. But what a book can do is it can eliminate a lot of that by providing that know, like, and trust ahead of time. For the people that read it, they get to know you, they get to experience some of your service, and hopefully get a win out of it for themselves. So by the time they get to you, that lead has been nurtured, and it's like a really, really quality person coming into your business. That can also help you buy back time by eliminating repetitive content. What I mean by this is if you have somebody that comes to your business or to you and you have to explain the same things over and over before you can get into deeper levels of training or service or your product, that's a perfect way to utilize a book. It can help take that off your plate so that when they do show up, they're actually ready to go deeper right away. Now, why is a book an asset to your business? Obviously, all those things I mentioned previously are assets to your business, but one, it can generate traffic for your website. This is especially great if your website already does a good job of converting visitors into clients. So if that's the case, sometimes you just need more eyeballs on your website. You need more people coming in so that they're going through that process that you've already got set up and working well. It can also help you grow your email list. You can do this by offering your book as a lead magnet, and you can either do that at a low cost or no cost by giving it away. The method that I prefer the most for both generating traffic to your website and building your email list is by putting assets in your book. Things that you can't fit very easily in a book, or that you just want them to have additional training, additional templates, additional guide. Maybe it's a link to a podcast so you can increase your viewership in those. But if you put that in your book, you're going to be able to grow your email list and help your website get traffic as well. I already talked a little bit about the nurturing that helps people improve the quality of the leads generated because they're already coming in with that know, like, and trust factor. And it can help you promote your products and services. That one's fairly obvious because you're usually taking them through one process, and then that process gets them to a finish line where there's another starting line of something else that they might need to do. And so this is a good way to promote the next thing in your ascension. As well as you can add it to a part of a product bundle or a bonus. The perceived value of a physical book is actually quite high. It's usually way higher than the $20 price tag that it comes with a book. So when you add this as a, hey, if you purchase this service, I'll throw my book in for free, or as a bonus, I'll give you my book. That's actually a really nice way to increase the perceived value. And then finally, you can reduce ad spend. I'll explain this a little bit because it's not as obvious as some of the others. In the situation with a book, less ads are required. You're already on Amazon, which is one of the biggest selling platforms in the world. So there's people there looking for the very specific solution that you're providing. And if you run ads on Amazon, they're usually a little cheaper than, say, Facebook ads and other things, Google ads. But you can get people getting into your book and getting that know, like, and trust right away. So you end up increasing the amount of people that are visible to your business, but it reduces the amount of ads required to get that same number. Same thing with a self-liquidating offer. You can create what's called a free plus shipping offer for your business. And I'm sure you've all seen these. Tony Robbins and Bernie Bouchard, Russell Brunson, they all say, hey, I'll send you my book for free. You just pay the shipping and handling. And then on the backside of that, after they've made that purchase, on the thank you page, it offers them something else. And that's usually like a 47-ish or to 97-ish dollar product that can negate the ad spend that you had in order to get people's eyes on that book. So it ends up being a machine that brings people in through ads, but then hopefully offsets the ad cost. If you get a break even self-liquidating offer, then you are winning major because you're building your list, you're building your business, and you're not spending money to do it. So there's a couple ways that you can reduce ad spend with a book as well. Now, some of the things you've seen the assets, but some people are, asking me sometimes like, okay, I understand it's a benefit to me, but how do I integrate it into my business? I don't know where I would even sell it. You just sell it and you make the $2.50 per book and call it revenue, but that's not what I try to do at all. So here's what I tell people and how to integrate a book into your business. Now, this is just a very generic, what's called a value ladder in marketing terms. I don't know why it's called a ladder because it looks more like a staircase, but I didn't create the term, so I'm just going to go with it. But if you look at the bottom there, across the bottom, as it goes to the right, your services, your products increase in price. And on the left, as you go up the x-axis, it increases in value to the customer. Okay, so it's usually more touch points, more personal service and stuff like that. So what you see at the very bottom of this value ladder is the free section. This could be where a book lives, but it's also your podcast, your guesting on podcasts, your social posts and lead magnets and other things that you are providing for free just to get attention, just so that people come into your ecosystem. It's kind of like the top of the funnel, if you will. From there, everything leads to the next thing, as you can see. So from here, the free stuff would push them into a new area where now you're offering something slightly more elevated. This could also be where your book lives. In Lynn's case, this is where Lynn's book lives. People buy it on Amazon and then they go through the process of learning who they are, some of their personal needs, what their values are, and a bunch of other things. And then once they know themselves, they're ready for her next services, which might be changing a career or other sort of coaching, or maybe even masterminds. So they just allow you to go up to the next level. This is usually the 99 cent to $99 price range here in the front end products. That leads into the mid tier, which are maybe now you're developing courses that teach people, probably introductory level courses, but could be a little deeper. Services you provide, maybe group coaching. And this is kind of the $100 to $1,000 price range for mid tier stuff. From there, it goes into maybe advanced courses, masterclass level courses, one-on-one coaching and stuff like that. That's a little bit more expensive. You're getting a lot more touch points with the expert in the $1,000 to $5,000 range. And then high ticket is the last thing there. That's usually like done for you. Like, hey, I will write your book as a ghostwriter and, that kind of level. And it's very personalized service at 5,000 and above. So this is how it's so easy to fit this model into almost any industry. This is how a book can easily be worked into your own business or your own brand so that it can help you ascend people throughout your services. So now that hopefully you're either convinced that a book is an asset and you'd like to have one, or you already knew that and you're even more excited about it, how do you get this thing published? All right, so there are three main publishing options that I'm going to go through today. The first one being the one that probably the most people get excited about, and that's traditional publishing. I'm going to kind of squash this myth just a little bit that this is the best way to go, especially for experts, entrepreneurs, and business owners, business leaders, because, well, we'll talk about why. But let's just explain traditional publishing a little bit. First of all, you have to have an agent for most major publishing houses. They won't talk to authors directly in most situations. So you have to shop your idea to an agent. And I say idea because if you approach them with a finished manuscript, you will often be rejected. The publishing companies themselves want the ability to shape your content, which in my opinion is a negative. If you're the expert, I don't want a publishing company telling me the content that I should be putting in it. So the good news is they take on all the production cost. If the agent's able to sell your idea to a publishing company, they will produce your book and they will pay for it. The drawback to that is that they get the money back out of you in the royalty split. Okay, they will typically keep 93% and give you 7%. This is for an entry-level author, not somebody who's published a lot of books, okay? So a brand new author getting their first deal is probably going to get offered 7% in royalties, which is pretty terrible. They might also get an advance, which is another good thing, but the way an advance works is it is actually an advance on the sales they think they're going to make. And that has to be recovered before you actually see any of those royalty splits. So just realize if you get a $10,000 advance, they have to sell $10,000 in books before you ever get a royalty check post that. So that's how that works. And then the other thing that's probably the biggest myth that I constantly have to relearn people on is they think that the publishing company is going to do all the marketing for them. They're most likely selecting you for a publishing deal because of your following and your platform and your success you've already proven, not because they are going to market you. They are betting on you as being a win for them, not saying we think we can make a win for you. So just realize everything is for the house, and the house usually wins. So for marketing, they will put a launch marketing campaign together. They will launch your book and do some of that for you, but you're still going to carry a majority of that load for marketing. And if after the launch it does not meet the markers that they set for your book, they will not put another dime into it, and you will be 100% responsible for all marketing from that point forward. So that is traditional publishing. The absolute opposite of that is self-publishing, and that is you all the way through. So you are in charge of everything. And the biggest thing about self-publishing is it's a very steep learning curve. You need to have a lot of time and a lot of patience and a lot of dedication to learn how to do everything that you need to do to produce and publish your own book. The production costs are obviously all yours. There's no royalty split because it's just you. And obviously, all of the marketing expenses are yours as well. The thing that falls right in between these two is what's called hybrid publishing. That is what my company, Innovator Press, is a hybrid publisher. It's a kind of a mix between the two because it gives you benefits from both traditional and self-publishing as well. So the cost is still the majority of the author. However, what you're getting from this partnership is a project manager who's an expert in publishing who will do all of the work. They will manage the project. They will find the editors that they've already vetted, the designers for your cover and the interior they've already vetted. They know the best printers. They know the best promotion avenues for launching your book and stuff like that. So you're gaining the expertise of the traditional publisher without having to give up some of the things that are so important to a lot of us creators. One of those being intellectual property. A traditional publisher will make you sign over your intellectual property to them. So they own your content, and you would have to buy it back for sometimes tens of thousands of dollars if you wanted to do that, publish that book later on your own. So just realize most hybrid publishers do not take your intellectual property. They give you a lot more control over your cover design, the interior, the content. They help guide you to make sure that your book is the best it can be, but it's still your content and your creative product. And then, also with marketing, tried and true, tested marketing promotional schemes to get your book out there is what you get with hybrid as well. The last thing you get is speed to market. I'll talk to this a little bit because what I'm recommending to most entrepreneurs, experts, brand owners is hybrid is probably the best way to go because I know as a business owner, I am always feeling short on time. I don't feel like I have enough time and I don't want to have to learn something brand new. So that's the biggest thing you're buying back is just having that project manager to walk you through everything and to do it for you in most cases. You still have to write it, but the production, the marketing, and all that stuff will be done by the publisher. You get access to all their people they've already vetted. You don't have to guess and make errors and spend money that you wouldn't have to spend otherwise. And then, like I said, control over your content, control over your design. You get to keep your own intellectual property. And then the speed to market piece is the traditional line takes about 18 months from the time they sign you to the time your book hits the market. It's a year and a half. With a hybrid publisher, depending on how you come in, if your manuscript is mostly already written, you could be ready to publish in 30 to 90 days. If you're coming in with an idea, then obviously it's going to take longer. Will probably take about 6 months, but still you're cutting a year off of that time before your book actually gets on the shelves. So that's a really big advantage. And then if you don't want to do hybrid publishing, let's say maybe you're newer in business and you don't have a lot of revenue coming in, you have more time than you do money, possibly self-publishing is a good way to go. I actually really like this model. It's just hard for most people who are running a business or running their brand and really busy trying to be successful with that. So those are your options. The hybrid and the self-publishing are the two I recommend. Obviously, a little bias moving toward the hybrid there, but definitely you hopefully can see the benefits to why that's important. Now,
Kevin, can I just interject really quick there?
absolutely.
Of all the people who went into the proposal writing incubator that I was part of prior to giving you my proposal, I'm the only one who has their book published now. And that was how many years ago that I was in that. I was in that. We published last year, and I was in the incubator in 2022. So just a little support for what you just said. They're still looking for agents and the old traditional way of getting a publisher.
Yeah, it's more of a psychological thing for most authors. They think the prestige is with the traditional publisher, but the stigma of self-publishing and hybrid publishing has really gone away. Um, I know that these are fiction books, but 50 Shades of Grey was self-published first. So was oh, J.R. What's your name? Tolkien? I know. Lord of the Rings.
War and Peace.
Yeah, she self-published it first too, and then
No, 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 no,
eventually,
no, 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 no.
when you prove that you can sell it, you can then transition to a traditional publisher and get the benefits all the way across. But there is nothing wrong with hybrid publishing and self-publishing anymore. It's actually the most common, and it gives you so much more ways that you can be successful with your book that you wouldn't be able to get permission from your traditional publisher if you wanted to do it. So I'll just leave it with that. I will say now you know the benefits, why book's an asset. You understand your publishing avenues, but then even if you're super excited right now, there's some barriers that people hit when they want to write a book. And so that's what I'm going to talk about next. And Len, since you just validated some of the other things I said, what I'm going to ask you is to be a little bit vulnerable. And would you mind sharing some of the barriers that you had and why you said the book lived with you for so long, but why did you not write it? I'm just curious if there's some of the ones I'm going to cover.
Well, one, I didn't feel like I was ready. But then when I got really honest with myself, I said, I'm not going to be any more ready. I felt like my content was out there and exposed, and so many people were using it. And I had a couple of people try to say it was theirs. And so there was a little bit of protection where I needed to finally validate it through a process of publishing it and say, no, this is mine. I've been using it for years. Please don't steal my intellectual property and call it yours. There was also this thing inside of me that just kept saying, now, 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 you need to get it out. And if this is a legacy of yours, get it out now. So another barrier to me was that I'd been coaching people so long on this topic that I hadn't sat down and written it. And so one of the barriers was actually the difficulty of translating something I was doing innately daily with people into a book. So I think those were some of the biggest barriers that came to mind first.
Yeah, no, those are very common as far as what would keep someone from writing a book. And I'll cover a few extra ones here because there's actually, like you said, there's quite a few. And some of them may resonate with people on the online listening and others won't. But one of the most common ones is they just don't know if their content is good enough. It's kind of strange because these are typically people who are running a successful business or having success in what they're doing or selling or service they're providing. But then when it comes to writing a book, they just don't know if that's good enough. Like a book is something that's so special that their normal success won't count. So it's a very common belief that I find with a lot of people that come to me. And ultimately, if we're going to put our best selves out there, we have to break our own false beliefs. We have to first identify what those are. What is hanging me up and why am I believing what I'm believing? And then finding a way to break that. And so actually, this one's kind of easy to break. Most of the people that come to me with this barrier, I just ask, do you know that you provide value in the service you give to others? And almost unanimously, it's yes, absolutely. People are leaving way better than when they show up. And I'm like, then there's your answer. Value and service provided equals valuable content for a book, period. You don't have to think about this one ever again. If you're providing value to somebody in a service, you can provide value to somebody in a book. And I can help you shape how to translate that from working with a person and, in person to how that sounds written. That's not a problem. But just knowing that your content is valuable is usually enough. And then a book's a great way to show people that value that you have to offer. Most people buying a book would have never found you any other way. They're a low cost barrier of entry to experience something they may not be able to experience another way. They may not want, let's say in Lynn's case, they might not even know what life coaching is. And then they pick up Soul Salt and they read it and they go, oh my gosh, I'm definitely going to work with Lynn as my life coach because I didn't even understand that this is how valuable this could be. So just realize if you're providing value to people in service, you can provide value to people in a book. The next one is kind of a few different things rolled in one, but it's all based in fear. Fear of judgment, fear of failure, and fear of disappointment. Now, that judgment is usually from others. Sometimes it's people that you respect, but most of the time it's just random people that are going to judge you. Fear of failure, you put some expectations on your book or on something that if it doesn't live up to bestseller, maybe it won't be successful. But I will hopefully negate that barrier as well here shortly.
I also want to say, Kevin, that these fears were absolutely pulverized when I met you, because I felt like I had seen what you had done with Drea's book, Intelligent Huddles, and I knew that you would guide me away from the cliff where these things live.
Yeah, and that's part of the benefit of having a framework that isn't just like high school essay writing framework, which is what most people try to do in a how-to book or a self-help book, even inspirational. This is why it's important to follow a good map, just like you provide in Soul Salt in the book. You provide a good map for people to follow, and that's like so critical to the success of pretty much anything you're doing is developing a map. So I'd like to use my good buddy Theodore Roosevelt to hopefully squash some of these fears because this is one of my favorite quotes in the world. And I'm just going to read it out loud because it's really awesome. So bear with me for just a second. It is not the critic who counts. It is not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. And you guys, what I have found is that it's those cold and timid souls are the ones that are doing the judging, saying there's a failure and making you feel some sort of disappointment. But you just have to ignore those people. They are not the people. Usually, I saw a meme recently that was like, nobody who is more successful than you will ever tear you down. They want you to win just because they know what struggle it took to get them to where they are. So it's only going to be the people below you that are throwing those stones. So do not discount your successes in your business. Do not even worry about those people who aren't in the ring because you are. And I think that's really powerful. Accept that there is no such thing as failure. If you're putting in the effort, if you don't quit, those failures are nothing more than stepping stones to your success. And that's how I look at. I mean, I've failed so many times in so many different areas of my life, but those are now some of my best stepping stones, and it's built the most character in me. So there are no real failures if you don't quit. Error and shortcomings do not equal failure. Release those expectations that something has to be a certain way and focus more on the service that you're providing. Um, Bottom line is ask yourself the question, will this information help someone else? And use that as your gauge as a success metric, not bestseller status, not number of books sold. Did you help people? And if your message helps people, you are successful. So write to that person because they actually need you. They need your map. They need you to show them how to get from point A to point B. So don't be afraid of that. Like I said, focus on service to others because the only thing worse than fearing all this stuff is regretting that you never did it. So don't fall into that category of regret. This is one of my favorite quotes by Tony Robbins. It really fits into this well. I am never scared because I'm never focused on me. I only focus on serving others. I ask myself, how can I do more for them than anybody else? And when you take that attitude, there really is no such thing as failure and disappointment and judgment, because if all you're doing is helping others, you're winning. All right, next one. I don't know what to write about. This is actually really common as well with entrepreneurs, business owners, experts, because so many times you're either an expert or you're talented in so many different areas, or you have multiple different ways in which you can help people. You're like, I don't know which one of my things I should write a book about. And so, what the most common error is, people try to write about everything. I'm going to put everything I know into one book and it's going to be amazing. And it ends up being terrible because it's not focused. So, here's some things that can help you get over this barrier of not knowing what to write about. First of all, pick a topic that best supports your business. I showed you a couple ways in which a book can fit into that value ladder. So pick one of those tiers, any of them is fine, and write about a topic that leads people to the next thing in your value ladder. And that's an easy way to pick something. A lot of times it's the very first thing. I love the way Lynn did this with discover who you are first. That opens the gate to everything else that you might need to do with me, because I don't know if you're going to want to change careers or do a different thing, but you first need to know who you are. And that's what this book does. So she picked her number one thing that people need to know and wrote a book about it so that it leads to all the other services she can provide. Solve problems that your clients need to have solved. You probably know what they are already. All the problems that your clients are going to run into, or that you run into, even solve a problem for yourself. That's a lot of times people are writing books for themselves and they don't even know it. Do you have frameworks that you've created in order to solve these problems? That's what I like to do, is go, hey, that's a great framework. It leads to the next thing. That should be your book topic. What's going to elevate your clients to the next service? What's going to take them from one to the next one? And then what problems do you create by providing a solution? This is an interesting that I had never really thought about until I got into digital marketing a little bit. But every time I solve a problem for somebody, I'm creating more problems. So I'll use a book as an example. When I help somebody write a book, I have now created 3 new problems: how to produce it, how to publish it, and how to market it. Right? So I need to solve those problems next. So what are the problems you're creating when you give somebody a solution? And that's some other great things to write books about. Here's just another example. I told you the book, but I have a naturopath who created a detox protocol. He's helping people detox their bodies and get healthier. But then what do they need after they've gone through his protocol? They need a new way to eat. They need recipes. They need shopping guides. They need other things. So there's problems that get created every time you solve a problem. Another, probably one of the most common ones, is I just don't know where to start. I know the value of a book. I know probably I would even do whatever kind of publishing, but I don't even know where to start with any of it. And so bear with me here. You must start with research. I get it. That makes a lot of people cringe. Nobody really loves to do research. Well, there's probably a few people out there that love research, but it usually turns a lot of people off. And when I say we have to start with research, I get a lot of pushback. So in order to negate this pushback, I created a framework to help people navigate this process. And I've even been told that it was actually kind of fun. So what I'd like to do really quick is I'd just like to let you listen to my good friend Brienne about going through my framework for research.
My name is Brienne Fox, and I run a coaching business as well as a wellness clinic for mind body wellness. I'm just not a research person. I love to learn, but like to do research is just not normally in my DNA. So this felt different for me. It was the fact that I was being told to do this, and I was like, okay, I'll do it. Like, I'm in. And then as I started working through it, I was like, this is brilliant. My name is.
All right. So I love Brienne because she called me brilliant, but it is just what it is. um, the bottom line is, if you get past that mental barrier that research is going to suck, it actually can be so valuable to your business, to your brand, to yourself. So I call it the map it out method. I don't have time to go deep into each one of these, but essentially map it out stands for discovering what market you're going to write for, the audience, your exact avatar that you're talking to, the problem that you're going to solve for them. This is probably the biggest one because sometimes we think we just want to educate people, but if you can solve a problem for somebody, man, you're on the fast track for a really great book. How to inspect the competition. So you're taking a look at other books that are going to be similar to yours, finding out where they win and where they lose, and making sure yours doesn't have any of those holes. How to test your content so that it's not going to come out and stall, and then writing your outline. So this is the research phase for me, and this is what I have every client go through that is going to publish a book for me. Is we got to go through this process to make sure we're on the right track. And then the outline is super important for the next barrier, which is I just don't have time to write a book. So I'll talk a little bit about the outline at first. An outline is just a big map. It tells you where you need to go, or at least tells you a lot of the stops that you need to make. And it is your North Star, so it can keep you on track when you're starting to get off. So a thorough outline means you should always know where you're going. It reminds you of all the topics you have to write about. And what I think is important about this one is we tend to make everything linear. Most of us do, and it has to be done in order or it doesn't work. So what I like about the outline is you have all of the different topics laying in front of you. And let's say you're just not feeling chapter 2 right now, and you just got off a coaching call with somebody and it's totally in line with something that's in chapter 7. You can go to chapter 7 because you have your outline and you know that that's where I'm going to talk about that. And then you can write something you're inspired to write. And what it does is it helps keep you on track. It helps make the process feel like it's not so restrictive by being able to bounce around a little bit. So that's the other good thing about an outline is it just kind of reminds you, hey, I'm feeling that other topic right now and I can write about that and that's okay. And then finally, when you do get lost or stuck, you can always reference your outline to know where you need to go next. The next thing that can help really accelerate your time is just useful software. We obviously all know about the most popular word processing softwares of Word, Pages, Google Docs, stuff like that. But the new guy on the market is artificial intelligence. Now, I will never, well, I won't say never, but you will probably never hear me say, let AI write your book. I don't even want it to write a chapter. I don't even want it to write a paragraph. I want your voice. But what AI is good for and can really accelerate is helping you with that research phase. It can help you determine your market size and trending directions, your audience's problems, and what the statement, your problem statement that you're going to solve. It can help you identify your competition if you're not completely familiar with it and explain why some of their stuff is incomplete. So not only that, but then I will also, if I get stuck with ideas, I will ask AI to help me generate new ideas. Here are the 5 topics I plan to talk about in this chapter. Is there anything that relates to X topic that I'm missing? And you will be surprised sometimes what it comes up with, and you're like, wow, that's actually really good. I will actually write about that topic as well. So AI is really wonderful to help you not get stuck and to help you through some of the things that can feel a little bit more like work rather than getting your message out to people. Okay. Dictation software is the other thing that I just really push for people because that allows you to speak your knowledge, which is what you're used to doing most likely anyway. You're used to telling stories. You're used to training. You're used to using your voice. So where people get stuck is when they pull up that blank Word document and that cursor's flashing at them. And even though if that was a client on the other side of the screen, they would know exactly what to say. For some reason, that blank page is horrible. So if you start by just talking through some of your frameworks, talking through the stories you know you need to tell, some of the testimonials or case studies that are going to be important, you can eliminate a good 60 to 70% of the writing you have to do just by talking into your phone or your computer or whatever you like to produce on. Okay, and then finally, this is an interesting one. Write a shorter book if you don't have time. And I've actually, this is one thing that I've really become passionate about lately. I call it a pocket guide. So you might have also heard it called a microbook, but I'd like to talk about this for just a second. A pocket guide is a short book that provides condensed education or solves a single problem with a fairly simple solution. So it's really focused content that gets to the heart of the matter quickly and gives people a really fast way to take action. It's typically 10 to 23,000 words, and these are not in stone. This is just rough guidelines, which is about 40 to 90 pages fully formatted. It typically solves one small problem. You're not going to go deep on something, but it's just one way to get them to the focused problem they're looking to solve. It should be able to be read in a single sitting, so 2 to 3 hours at the most. The solution should be something readers can take action on quickly. And this is one of the best marketing assets used to drive specific outcome for you and your reader. Okay, so why would you be excited about writing a short pocket guide versus a full-size book? It is a significant decrease in the time, effort, and expense required compared to a full-size book. You only need short, focused content to reach the specific achievement, and then it creates authority for you, just like a full-size book does. Once it's published, you're still a published author. You can still achieve bestseller status with a pocket guide despite the short length. There's actually categories being created on Amazon right now just for short books like this. You can use it to buy back your time by eliminating one-on-one education that you'd have to do otherwise. It creates the same feeling of know, like, and trust that you develop with a full-size book, only just in a shorter, quicker format. And you can use it to generate leads, and which turns into revenue for your business. So if you look at that list, this is almost identical to the things I talked about on why a book is an asset to you. It's just a shorter, quicker way to do it. And that's why I appreciate them so much. But guess what? It's also an asset to the reader. The reader loves these because it's a quick solution that they can digest in a day and act on quickly. Everything is moving to short form. You almost never see a 15-minute video on Instagram anymore. You've got TikTok and Insta Reels that are 30 to 60 seconds, YouTube Shorts that are no more than a couple minutes. Your average attention span is less than 7 seconds for most people. So not too many people get excited about reading that 300-page book anymore. So they really just want it to the point, fix the problem I have, and then I will like you enough to come seek you out for more services after that. It gives them a quick win. They're excited to move to the next step. And I believe that this is a perfect compromise between writing a full-size book, and if you know you need one, but you don't think you have time, I think that's a great solution. And yes, I did develop a framework in order to write a pocket guide. And I now teach that as a class. Before I tell you about it, I just want to share a quick story to show you the potential impact of a pocket guide. Does anyone know who Dan Henry is? If you're not into digital marketing, you probably don't. That's okay. It's this guy. He's a very successful digital marketer who sells some pretty high ticket stuff and services to people. He wrote a book called High Ticket Selling, a pocket guide. It's only 62 pages long. We got to meet him at a conference called Funnel Hacking Live. We go every year to try to stay on the leading edge of marketing. He gave away 5,000 copies of this pocket guide. There were 6,000 people in attendance. So almost everybody in the room got one. Even though he wasn't a speaker at this conference, he literally set up a table in the hallway, gave away these copies. And then he said he generated $2.4 million from giving away this book and it bringing in the clients. Now, not making financial claims for you. This guy is kind of special. He has a huge following, and the stuff he sells is very expensive. So that is a unique outlier situation. But what this did was it showed me the possibility. And sometimes that's all you need. You need to see somebody break the 4-minute mile before you realize what's possible for yourself. And that's what that did for me. And that's why I took my expert book formula framework and I condensed it down into a pocket guide size and teach that as a class that I call Pocket Guide Profits. This is the end of my presentation. So in order to thank everybody for sticking with me this long, I know we started with 10 and we're ending with 10. That's usually a good sign. So thank you for listening to my presentation. And as a thank you, I would like to gift everyone that either is here live or watches the webinar to join my next class for free. It's not completely decided when I'm going to start it yet. It's either going to be the end of this month or the first part of July. But if you register, I will send you emails and let you know when that's going to be. And I will walk you all the way through the research phase, picking your topic, and having your pocket guide basically written at the end of the course. So that's kind of neat. And then if you already know you want a full-size book or you don't know what might be right for you, you don't want to just jump into Pocket Guide Profits, then I would also like to offer anybody a free clarity call to just hop on the phone with me or on Zoom, and we can talk through to get you some clarity. I promise there will not be any sales. It will be you, your business, and your ideas, and we'll pick the best path forward for you guys, just so that you can have an idea where you want to go with it. So, with all that being said, finally, are there any questions?
Joy just had a comment and said, thank you. What a cool giveaway. And I agree.
Well, you are most welcome.
Yeah. And if they do have questions that pop up and they're not quite ready for a clarity call, how do they get in touch with you, Kevin?
I will put my direct email in the chat.
Great.
It's Kevin@innovatorpress.com. I should have probably put that on the slide, but I didn't. So hopefully you can see the, can you see a chat in a replay? I don't know if you can see the chat in a replay, but
And you just said it, so say it one more time.
Kevin@innovatorpress.com.
Kevin@innovatorpress.com.
And I'll send that to Shannon so that when she emails out the other links to things, that she can also make that known and people can just click on it and send a direct email.
I
Yeah.
was just gonna say that I'll include it all in the follow-up.
Kevin, this has just been so helpful. So many questions, and we have a lot of people who'll be listening after. Of course, we'll be posting this on one of our playlists on YouTube. And those of you who are listening, please hear from me one more time. I trust Kevin. I became a better writer because of him. My book became a bestseller because of him. When you have a book inside of you, you truly need, from my opinion and my experience, someone supporting you so you can be the content expert. You can bring your book into the world and somebody assists you like a midwife to get it birthed, get it here, get it growing, and to be able to step into the publishing world with only knowing your book. You don't have to know all the other things. Kevin knows the other things. So, Kevin, it's been such an honor to have you here. And those of you who are here today, thank you for joining us live. Last words, Kevin?
No, I want to reiterate how grateful I am for you and Shannon bringing me on here and giving me this opportunity to, spread some information, and hopefully it was valuable and you guys got a lot out of it. But like I said, if you have more questions or you need to, talk with me, feel free to reach out. I'm very accessible.
Yeah, we have one raised hand. Go ahead.
Oh, hi, Kevin. Thanks for the presentation. Just got a question. If you had, if you ever had any difficulties with publishers, and what sort of expertise would you give if you had to deal with a difficult publisher?
Do you have a specific example of the difficulty? Because as a publisher, I don't usually work a lot with other publishers. But if I was an author trying to seek a publisher, one of the things is trying to avoid the bad ones in the first place. And that just has to be like using word of mouth recommendations or testing them in other ways. But if you've had some specific experiences, maybe I can give you some better guidance.
I haven't had any experiences, but I've spoken to one author that had problems with Amazon, and when she was putting her book out through Kindle, she said Amazon were taking quite a large amount from her thing. So I just want to know, what advice would you give in that situation?
Yeah, actually, very, very well put there. Amazon is Amazon, and they have the right to take whatever cut they want. So what I try to tell people is don't focus on the front end small stuff. Use your book to drive people into your ecosystem and make the revenue there. If you sell a book for $10, you're probably going to make $1.50 to $2 because Amazon takes a lot. But that isn't where I put my focus. I'm not going to get rich usually selling books one at a time. I am going to build my business to success by taking what people buy on Amazon and then finding a way to bring them into my ecosystem by coming to my website, entering their email address, downloading something valuable, wanting training from me or wanting to work with me. And now, even though Amazon has taken the lion's share of my book royalty, they're still providing me something that's super valuable to me, way more valuable than the $2 I would have made from just the book. Does that make sense?
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Yes, it does. Yes, thanks.
Great.
Good question, Akbar. Thank you for that. All right, we've reached our time. So Kevin, thank you again. Those of you who joined us live today, thank you so much for your presence, and Shannon for helping us with the background. We hope to see you next month do we have one in next month? Shannon, tell us what we're doing with Courageous Growth next month. You're on mute.
Sorry, not in July. We don't have one until August, and I'll put that information for the next one as well in our follow-up email.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Take care.